Get the most out of your field upgrades and reach those higher score streaks faster with these 5 tips. Welcome back to How to Improve Your Game Sense in Black Ops Cold War, really any Call of Duty, Part 3. In this series, I provide you with tips on how to improve your game sense as well as examples on how to implement them in your gameplay. If you didn't catch Part 1 about map awareness or Part 2 about how to read and manipulate spawns, you can click the link above or the link in the description to catch those, but let's jump into Part 3 with a quick pros and cons list of every field upgrade. If you want to skip around, as always I put chapters in the timeline, so feel free to click around, but let's start off with proximity mines. The damage from a proximity mine, and keyword damage, cannot be countered by any perk like Flak Jacket. I personally use them most in Search and Destroy because whether they set them off, die, survive, or just destroy them, I instantly know where the enemy is. But when it comes to the cons of the proximity mine, they're easily destroyed, and if people can react fast enough, all they have to do is crouch and they'll survive it. For me, the rate in which they're destroyed is not worth it, with the exception of S&D of course. Moving on to the SAM turret though, I really don't use this field upgrade. It's kind of a waste to me, but the pros are of course that they destroy airstreaks. But the biggest con is that it has the longest recharge time at 3 minutes and 45 seconds. And I'm not the biggest fan of defensive field upgrades, with the exception of the next field upgrade we're going to be talking about, and that is the Jammer, which is the most underrated field upgrade in my opinion, and I've only seen people start to use it more frequently as of late. And I think that that's because people are starting to realize how many pros come with the Jammer, because it not only blacks out a section of the map, concealing you and your team's position from spy planes, harps, or if you have an unsuppressed weapon, but within its effective radius, it also disables all other field upgrades and some score streaks like the sentry turret. So trophy systems, gas mines, field mics, you name it, it counters it, with the exception of course of another Jammer. Now when it comes to the cons, it's not really that big of a deal, but even if the enemy doesn't have engineer equipped, they can actually see the blacked out section on the map, and if they're really determined, they can go to the center of the circle, find it, and destroy it. But moving on to the field mic, this can be one of the most powerful field upgrades, with the pros being that you have a constant UAV in any given section of the map. And with a small map like Nuketown, you can cover a significant portion of the map with just one field mic. When it comes to the cons, they take the longest to recharge, second only to the SAM turret, and because of that, if it gets destroyed, you've essentially wasted your field upgrade slot for the rest of the game or the round. Moving on to the trophy system though, this is my favorite and the one that I use the most, with the biggest pro being that the recharge time on the trophy system is extremely fast, and with Gearhead equipped, you can constantly be pumping them out. You're also more likely to rack up points from them because of how often people throw tacticals and lethals, and that provides a constant stream of points to your score streaks. When it comes to the cons though, is that trophy systems counter other trophy systems, so there's nothing more annoying than when you're about to throw your trophy system down and it just explodes in your hand because the enemy has already placed theirs in the same area. Next up though is the gas mine. Now the gas mine is great for blocking a doorway or a path for a pretty long period of time. The cons on the other hand is that most people run tac mask, so it's only really effective 40% of the time. And for them to actually be effective, you have to place them in a high traffic area, and because it's a high traffic area, people are constantly bombarding it with lethals, thus destroying them almost immediately.
Your gas line was destroyed by enemy action.
And finally, the Assault Pack. And honestly, the only pro that I can find with this is that you get those golden rounds when you resupply from an Assault Pack, which give you bonus points anytime that you get a kill with them. However, the con is that almost every map has a resupply crate already there, and they're more readily available than a field upgrade. In my opinion, it's a throwaway unless you want those higher bonus points. Quick note, I actually did make a video about the location of resupply crates on every map, and if you want to check that out, you can click the link above or the link below. I cover every map with the exception of Miami Strike and onwards, but I'll be releasing an update very soon, including all those new maps. But that's it for the pros and cons list. Let's jump in with tip number 1. Be strategic with your field upgrade placement, not only to avoid having them destroyed by the enemy, but so that you can get the most out of your field upgrade. For instance, if you place a Jammer right outside of a hard point, you're not only concealing your presence and your team's presence while you're trying to break the hill, but you're also disabling any enemy equipment in that area, including their trophy systems. You of course also want to avoid placing your field upgrade in places that are constantly being bombarded by gunfire or lethals, but you can still place them near those areas so that the edges of the effective radius are just covering high traffic areas. For example, when placing trophy systems, I don't just place them in the middle of an objective, but on the outskirts. You can even place them just outside of the map where they're still functional but the enemy doesn't think to look, or on top of buildings or tall vehicles where they aren't as visible. As for proximity mines and gas mines, I actually use these more actively than passively, meaning I won't just leave it somewhere waiting for it to go off because it'll more likely get destroyed, but what I'll do, especially with gas mines, is I'll wait for an enemy to enter a high traffic area and I'll try to place it near them right before they kill me. Now although you're sacrificing your life, because you placed it right near them, it'll go off immediately and block that area for a pretty significant period of time. With proximity mines on the other hand, I try to put them in places where players are less likely able to react fast enough. Like on stairs, especially if they're going down the stairs, if they crouch as soon as it goes off, they'll still be at the level in which it pops up. However, the best place is at the top of ladders or at the top of rappel ropes, because of the recovery delay you experience when you reach the top. Moving on to tip number 2, depending on the placement of your field upgrade, you can actually use its destruction as a way to pinpoint the enemy's position. People cannot help but destroy field upgrades when they see them. So if you put a jammer on the street side of Moscow and you just received a notification that it's been destroyed, well, now you know that there's someone in that exact area. I'll also use my field upgrades as bait sometimes, especially with trophy systems and hardpoint. Let me explain. With Gearhead equipped, I'll sometimes have 2 trophies available, so when I'm setting up for a hill, I'll place one in the middle of the objective in plain sight of the enemy, and we'll call this the decoy, and then the other one I'll place in an obscure area. So when the enemy sees this decoy, they'll usually just shoot at it without thinking, which tips me off right away that someone is approaching and squanders their element of surprise. And that leads me right into tip number 3. Don't just destroy every field upgrade you see. This is especially important if you're trying to flank or execute a stealthy play, because like I said, an enemy that places a field upgrade will receive a notification if it's been destroyed. Unless it's a field mic, then they probably already know you're there, so if you destroy it, just prepare for a gunfight. And just in case you haven't noticed, this was added in the last few months, but if you do want to destroy a field upgrade and don't want to give away your position by shooting your gun, just approach it and an action to destroy the field upgrade will pop up. This can also be done through walls. And moving on to tip number 4, how to reach higher score streaks faster. Now there's a number of ways to gain extra score, with the most obvious and effective being going on a kill streak. But field upgrades like jammers, field mics, and assault packs can also contribute a significant amount of points toward your score streaks. Exclusive Ace actually made a great video breaking down the best ways to generate score, which I'll link below in the description. But I want to focus on one method that I found to be the best, and that's by equipping either a war machine or a death machine. And the reason is that the higher kill streak that you go on within the same life, the more bonus points that you receive with every kill. But any kills you receive from a kill-based score streak, like the Napalm Strike, VTOL, etc., does not count toward that kill streak, meaning they only count as a regular kill, with the exception of the war machine and the death machine. Kills that you receive with these score streaks count toward your kill streak, therefore rewarding you with more bonus points which help you reach those higher score streaks. So if you were to go on a kill streak with just a war machine, you'd receive a total of 1200 points. Not to mention if you've already been on the streak before you pull it out, you can potentially get even more points. I tend to use a war machine because I can never fire a shot with a death machine without dying. But since implementing this tactic, I find that I reach my higher score streaks a lot more frequently. And finally, my 5th and final tip has to do with timing and using your score streaks for maximum effectiveness. Cold War's score streak system is different than any Call of Duty to come before it, because you don't lose progress toward your streaks when you die. However, there is a cooldown period on every score streak which can prevent you from earning them multiple times over the course of a game. And with that in mind, the last thing you want to do is waste them after all the work that it took to earn them. That being said, try to time your score streak with your team's push on an objective. Here's a great example where I'm about to drop a Napalm Strike. And what I look for before calling it in is that the majority of my team is approaching the objective so that by the time the Napalm drops, my team will be in close proximity to take control of the hill. The last thing you want to do is to drop a streak when your entire team is on the other side of the map, because it gives your opponent more time to spawn back in and recover. But also, if your team is pushed up far enough and not blocking the other spawns, you can actually use it to flip spawns. So when using your score streaks, consider your current circumstances. Did your opponent just call in a counter spy plane? Then it's probably best not to call in your spy plane just yet. Is the next hardpoint an indoor hill? Save your airstreak for an outdoor hill. Did your opponent just call in a VTOL, Napalm, strafe run? Then maybe don't pull out your war machine or death machine only to get killed without using it all. And here's one I hate the most when I do it. In domination, is it almost halftime? Then it's probably not best to use your score streak or even your field upgrade and then lose it all together because the half is over. And those are my 5 tips on how to get the most out of your field upgrades and how to reach those higher score streaks. Let me know in the comments below which field upgrades and score streaks you like to use the most and why. In part 4 of the series, I'll be providing you with tips on how to be a more aggressive player. Again, if you missed part 1 about map awareness or part 2 about reading and manipulating spawns, you can check those out in the links below or at the end of the video. Finally, I'd like to thank you guys for helping me reach 50 subscribers. I know that sounds like a small milestone, but to me it means the world. I'm hoping that we can reach 100 subscribers by my birthday, which is next month. So if you know anyone who you think would benefit from this video or any others on the channel, please share it with them, and if you found the video helpful in any way, please consider leaving a like and subscribing for more videos about Call of Duty and how to improve your gameplay. As always, this was Sablehound, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Hey, I want to be famous.